Championship week, everybody. I am pumped. You are pumped. It is the last major of the year. We're here to talk about the old course at St. Andrews. Going to talk about the field a little bit. Going to talk about the stats that I'm looking at. What to look at in terms of course history. And yeah, let's get right into it. So before we get into the specifics, let's just quickly look at the course. So it's a par 72, 7,300 yards. And what you'll notice, this isn't your regular par 72. So you have 2 par 3s and 2 par 5s. And that's it. Most par 72s have 4 par 3s and 4 par 5s, which means there are 14 par 4s. So if you want to look at par 4 scoring, I certainly don't mind it. And then look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 par 4s under 420 yards. So a lot of short holes. Historically, this has been one of the easier courses in rotation at the Open Championship. So with the wind, not expecting to be too bad on Thursday and Friday. We could see some really low scores, but I will note that we thought there was going to be very little wind early in the week for the Scottish Open, but that didn't come to fruition. There was 20 plus mile per hour winds every single day. So definitely want to keep your eye on the forecast. And that's pretty much my first bullet point over here when it comes to the course. The big story is going to be the weather. So you want to be checking the weather all the way up to lineup lock. And personally, I'm going to be building stacks on both sides of the draw, even if it looks like one wave is going to have a distinct advantage over the other, because the weather can change on a dime. I mean, we were seeing it last week in Scotland. Every couple hours the forecast was changing. So even though it doesn't look too bad on Thursday and Friday now, I will be keeping an eye on it throughout the week, and I will be building stacks on both sides of the draw. And then for your main lineup, I would only, stack one side or the other if there looks to be a clear edge on Thursday, because again, it can change so fast. So if it looks to be a clear edge on Friday, I probably wouldn't put too much stock into it just because it could change pretty quickly. Obviously, a ton of history around the old course at St. Andrews. It's a home of golf. We've had, Tiger Woods win here. Louis Oosthuizen, Zach Johnson been the last 3, I believe. And yeah, it's a links course. It's very exposed to the elements. The scoring, again, should be a little bit easier compared to most majors, but again, that depends on the weather. 14 par 4s, again, that's going to play a lot different than most courses that we see on the PGA Tour. The greens, they're huge. They feature a mix of fescue and bentgrass, some of which are shared greens. So 7 of the holes feature shared greens. The main defenses of the course going to be the deep bunkers, a lot of pot bunkers on the course, 112 in total. The wind again, and then a lot of 3 putts on these big greens. So, Tiger Woods, he said it's more about placement off the tee and then lag putting. That's kind of the 2 strengths that he thinks you have to have at this course. Obviously, he knows more than most. And so off the tee, I'm looking at more total driving than distance or accuracy. I'm also looking at just strokes gained off the tee. I'm looking at leagues experience. I'm looking at major experience. I'm looking at golfers that don't have a major weakness, so they're solid all around. And then coming in good form. In terms of the trends of winners, so 7 of the last 11 winners at the Open missed the cut the previous year, which is certainly interesting. I wanted to double check that one, but certainly interesting. 7 of the last 10 winners were in the top 25 of the official world golf rankings. No surprise there. The best golfers tend to win the majors. 8 of the last 10 winners had a win earlier that season, so that will take away a lot of the golfers that I like this week. Zalatoris, Finau, guys like that. 8 of the last 10 winners had a top 20 in their previous 2 major starts, so the last 2 times they teed it up at a major, top 20. Each of the last 10 winners had a top 2 at a previous major, so you have to have at least a runner-up at a major if you probably want to win this. Again, trends are made to be broken, but certainly interesting to look at. They're kind of fun more than anything. And then 9 of the last 10 winners at St. Andrews had a top 3 at the Masters. So a guy like Cam Smith, who's my pick to win this week, I certainly like that narrative because he has a 2nd and a 3rd at the Masters. He also won earlier this season. He won twice, won Tournament of Champions and the Players Championship. Now let's get into the stats. So again, I'm looking at strokes gained off the tee, total driving, strokes gained approach, ball striking, green or egg, birdie or better, bogey avoidance, strokes gained around the green, and strokes gained putting. Nothing that really jumps out there. I might add par 4 scoring, but it gets a little tricky. So I've spent quite a few hours trying to marry the data from the PGA Tour and the DP World Tour because, there's a large portion of this field that is plays primarily on the DP World Tour. So I went through and I wanted the stats to match. So strokes gained off the tee, I went through and added up per round on both tours. So that is going to be the middle columns here. So the middle columns are going to feature a mix of the PGA Tour and the DP World Tour. And you can't really separate it by time over on the DP World Tour like you can on the PGA Tour. So somebody like Ryan Fox, third over the last 6 months strokes gained approach. And I wanted to make sure to include that because if I didn't include those numbers from the European Tour, all of those guys are just going to get killed in the stat model. They're not going to pop as good values. And I do think we're going to see, a lot of them pop up on the leaderboard. It might not be the ones that we expect, but I did want to include them in the stat model. And then I also went through and took out the recent stats of the Live Tour guys. So Paul Casey, Bryson Brooks, all those kind of guys. I just made sure to focus on their long-term stats because they have been playing on the Live Tour, and we don't really have stats from that tour just yet. So that was kind of my way of marrying the data from all the different tours and kind of giving everyone an equal shot in terms of their projection. We have the course history. This is the Open history from the last 5 years. So obviously it hasn't been played at St. Andrews since 2015. So this is just the prior Open Championship history, which I do think is going to be important. History on links, history on tough links, all that kind of stuff I think certainly matters. So I put a weight to that. So Open Championship history, guys that play the best of the Open Championship. You have Spieth, Finau, McIntyre, Webb Simpson, Brooks Koepka. And then I also have a little weight to strokes gained at St. Andrews. Again, it's going to be a very small sample size, especially it's old data as well. So somebody like Adam Scott's obviously a much different player now than he was when he played it the first couple of times. But certainly wanted to include that as well. Louis Oosthuizen obviously pops. Then you have your form stats, your cut percentages, your top 10 percentages, your recent form, all that good stuff. And since it is a major week, I wanted to, give a little preview of what the model offers in terms of the values. So again, you can go through, you can customize this any way you want if you are a premium member. You can adjust the weights. You can go through and add adjustments to this column here. So even though I rely mostly on the data, I'll go through and make adjustments. So somebody like Paul Casey hasn't played since the Players Championship, at least not 4 rounds. So if I don't do anything to his projection, he's going to pop as the best play on the board. But he's very risky. I mean, he's withdrawn from like 6 events in a row, something like that. So if you want to factor that in, I would only look his way in large field tournaments. Somebody like Jordan Smith, who I like a little bit more than my model suggests, bumped him up a little bit, bumped down Henley because he hasn't been great at the Open Championship, stuff like that. I wrote notes for most of the field. And then you go through, so guys that pop in terms of their DraftKings point per dollar rating. You have Keegan Bradley, Ryan Fox, Homa, Mito, who kind of fell apart last week, Smith, Casey, Gooch, Finau, Tringali, Xander, Horsfield. All guys that I think are interesting this week. You look at FanDuel, going to have a similar list of names. You also notice that FanDuel, the more expensive guys tend to pop as better values. That's because of the softer pricing over there. So Rory pops as a much better value on FanDuel than he does on DraftKings. I typically like to build a little bit more balance on DK and a little bit more stars and scrubs on FanDuel, especially with Jordan Smith at 7,600. That is so cheap. Then on Yahoo, there's always some good guys at the min salary. Smith, Horsfield, Wiesberger, who's been playing some good golf. Very consistent, as you can see here. He's made at least 5 straight cuts. He's made at least 2 straight cuts at the Open Championship. And yeah, so we'd love to have you as a part of RG Premium. We have the expert survey, my article, my bets, Justin's article. We have a value play article. We have Drew Matthews on board now, who's doing an article for us. What else we got? CVR, the expert rankings. And then you get access to the Discord, which is a lot of fun. We've already been in there all day Monday, kind of talking about our favorite early week plays, the weather draws. Apparently Tiger played pretty well in his practice round today. So just a ton of fun. And then, once lineups lock, that Discord is just all about the sweat. Everyone's kind of tilting together, which is a lot of fun. So you don't have to tilt by yourself. It's much more fun to tilt with company. Misery loves company. But yeah, I'm always around to answer questions. You can send me a message on Discord, or you can hit me up on Twitter at RG_Notorious. Feeling good about this week, and best of luck to everyone. Let's get it.